Cultures are dying, and here's why. But before I get started on anything, we have to understand what alternative subcultures even are. According to an article written by Angie Kimmy-Louis, alternative subcultures are characterized by being outside mainstream society, with members having similar music preferences, appearances, and value. The goal of their study was to understand the experiences of emerging adults who identified with alternative subcultures. You know, like goths, punks, emos, decora, anything alternative that you could think of. In shorter words, alternative subcultures were groups of people who didn't allow anything related to mainstream media or society to dictate what they did. They more or less just, did their own thing. There are multiple people who are huge influences within the alternative subcultures that brought many of those people together, like Sid Vicious, the bassist in the iconic punk band Sex Pistols, or Robert Smith, who's more known in the goth band known as The Cure. Everyone knows The Cure, let's be honest. These types of influences are what inspired many people within many communities to come together and, celebrate their differences, their looks, their personalities, ideas, and so much more. So you might be wondering, well, how is a subculture dying if you're saying that all these people are coming together and creating communities? It doesn't make sense. Well, my good friend, that's where social media plays a role, especially TikTok. TikTok is one of the most popular social media apps out there, which many go to in order to find, whatever they need to find. It usually brings people together and can bring out many positive aspects, but at the same time also bring in negative aspects. For example, in an article written by Liam Creed Studio and Studio Tom Rowland, they touch on the subjects of TikTok influences and how it has changed alternative subcultures by creating short videos of alternative lifestyles in order to push aesthetic trends. This is what caused the dilution of alternative subculture due to the shift from underground differences to mainstream aesthetic. Look, the idea of dressing alternative was much more appealing than actually being alternative, which then goes back to my point of alternative subcultures dying. Nowadays, you see so many people walking around with baggy pants, an Affliction shirt, brand names that look alternative, and they're trying to fit in with the alternative aesthetic, which washes over the subculture's history. The truth is, many people within those alternative communities struggle with finding a place to be accepted and aren't allowed to do what they please. Now, those communities have turned into a fashion show on who looks the most different without actually being different. Look, alternative communities were originally about self-expression, freedom, and rejection from social expectations. So how can it still represent that if people are only accepted when they look alternative in a way society still finds them attractive or normal? At that point, it stops being about self-expression and starts becoming another trend with unspoken rules. The moment someone goes beyond those rules, they're excluded, which completely goes against the originality from the subcultures and what they stood for. Alternative cultures didn't disappear overnight, and it slowly turned into content. And when individuality becomes a trend, it eventually stops becoming individuality at all. It's very important that people know that alternative subcultures aren't something that they can just cosplay or dress up. It's a community that thrives on support, and not only that, but foundations such as politics and music. We have to understand the background of these subcultures in order to get a deeper understanding and, learn what's going on. It's better to get a deeper understanding than to pretend you know what you're doing, because at that point, you're not really alternative, and you're just another follower.